So, Travis.
Yes, Stephen.
I'm glad you're here today. Obviously, we are filming this. We've been talking about doing some stuff for a while. So, just, kind of for our viewers, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I was originally the college and career pastor at Bay Life. I guess before that I was the janitor at Bay Life, and then I worked my way up to college ministry, and now
I don't know if that was better or worse.
I guess it's up for debate.
It really is.
Yeah.
All right.
But I'm now the teaching pastor on staff, which is kind of a broad role. It means that I teach about 30 to 40% of the time on Sunday mornings.
Okay.
But then I also am in charge of our foundations classes, which it's our theological education program.
Okay.
And then I also oversee our resources page, which has podcasts and blogs and videos. Once something like this is done, it'll have videos.
Absolutely, yeah.
As a way for people to start to go a little bit deeper in their faith and
Okay.
start to ask a little bit better questions about what it means to be a Christian. So that's kind of my new role.
Well, as you know, so I'm the communications director at Bay Life, and the reason why I've asked for you to be here is because we have for a while now started just getting some questions in from people who are trying to find faith. They're just trying to figure out what where they land in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah.
And some of the questions that we've got are very, very good questions, and I just didn't feel like we were able to do them justice with a quick email or just providing a book to read or something. So we wanted to provide a segment so we could start to answer these questions
Right.
More comprehensively. Maybe not in the depth you would give in like the foundations class, but
Sure.
certainly provide a good answer to the question.
Right.
So if people want to go to ask a question or to find resources, where would they go?
So you can go to the Bay Life resource page, and there, like I said, there's blogs and there's podcasts up there to kind of help you dive into some of those issues. But then there's also a section at the bottom of the resources page where you can ask questions.
Okay.
And we'll sort of sift through those and pick a couple every month or so, and then we'll tackle them together in the segment.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So more so, and I always just love hearing your story, so I'll ask you this again so that other people who are watching who may not know you can kind of figure out, why are you like the qualified guy at Bay Life to answer questions?
Yeah, so I don't know how qualified I am, but I love people who ask questions.
Okay.
Because that is so much a part of my story and how I came to a deeper understanding of faith. I grew up in a Christian home. I can't think of a time when I didn't consider myself a Christian.
Okay.
But around high school, sort of just discerned this call to ministry and decided to go to USF. I had Bright Future Scholarship. That was kind of the best call. And so in my head, I thought, okay, well, I want to go into ministry, and USF required me to declare a major. And so I said religious studies, thinking that was the same thing as Bible college, which was just not true. Like, just at its very foundation, not true. It is not a seminary education. It was something very, very different. Studying religion at I guess a secular public university is not the same thing as going to seminary or going to a Bible school.
Okay. And how come?
So you're being taught, maybe not all the religions, because there's a lot, but you're being taught the main religions, and you're being taught theories of religion from people with a lot of different backgrounds. So like my teacher who taught me Christianity was a Buddhist who sort of dabbled in Wicca and neo-paganism, right? So I'm learning Christianity from someone who doesn't believe any of the central tenets of Christianity.
Okay, all right.
Or my New Testament professor was an atheist. But then at the same time, I did have a few professors who were Christians. And so you're learning religion from the perspective of someone who may or may not be convinced that any of it carries any weight. And that caused me to ask a ton of questions.
Okay.
Because in learning Christianity from non-Christians, I was forced to engage with ideas and perspectives on the Bible and on Jesus and on faith that I'd never heard before. So I probably had like 15 or 20 crises of faith in college.
I was just thinking, I was like, that would wreak havoc with me all the time. So I guess it did with you as well.
Right, yeah. So just as you're encountering all these ideas, they're not something you're going to hear in Sunday school. They're, if you grew up in a Christian home, they're just not ideas that most Christians have heard of.
Okay.
And yet, in the wider world, they're pretty common perspectives. And so I did a lot of reading, and every once in a while I would have a panic attack because I couldn't find an answer in a book. And so I would go to the author of the book and say, oh, he teaches at this seminary. I wonder if I can find his email address. And I would hunt down his email address and send him some panicked like email, like my faith is falling apart. Please help me figure out what to do with this. And so I asked a lot of questions, and I think that's actually a good thing. Like historically, Christians were taught the faith through something called a catechism, which is this series of questions and answers that outlines Christian belief.
Right.
And even when we look at the Gospels, Jesus asks more questions than he answers, as if there's something about the question that actually helps us come to the truth.
With me growing up, one of the things that we were really, I guess I would say I struggled with was this: just believe. Mm-hmm. Like just take it on faith. Just believe it. And I was never really that guy.
Right.
I always struggled. Like I wanted to know, okay, but why? Okay, but why? Not everybody is encouraged to ask questions, and yet in today's society, I think it's important for us to acknowledge the necessity of questions.
Right.
People who have blind faith don't really have real faith, I don't think, because they've never had that faith tested. Mm-hmm. And so I think people who come hard to faith, like they come into the faith really like it's kind of kicking and screaming before they go, all right, fine, this is real. Mm-hmm. I think that they find a deeper and richer kind of faith.
Right. Yeah, C.S. Lewis in Mere Christianity talks about, I don't remember what doctrine he's explaining, but he says, I'm sure people are going to hear this and go, well, that's not simple. And his response is, real things aren't simple.
I like that.
The truth is not simple. And I know this was something that frustrated college students when I was the college pastor. But they would ask me a question, and I would give them a very long answer, and they would say, that's just really intense. And I was like, nothing is as easy as you think it is. Like, truth is true. Truth exists.
Sure.
But getting there is not as simple as like a 140-character tweet. It takes work to get to the truth. It takes thinking. It takes engaging. It takes a lot of things. And so that's one of the things I say to people who are asking questions is don't expect to be able to ask Siri for an answer and get a very good one.
If Siri can answer the question, then it's not necessarily a question that's great to ask.
Right.
With regard to your eternity, I guess.
Right. And so when it comes to these big concepts like the Bible and what the Bible teaches and what it means to be a Christian, the answers are not simple, but true things never are. And I think we have to be willing to live with questions for a little while as we pursue answers. So I'm really excited about doing this segment because I asked a ton of questions and I'm still asking a ton of questions. And I'm sure that as people email things into us, I'll be forced to ask questions I've never thought of before. And yet what I found in college, and I've continued to find throughout my life, is that Christianity is deep enough to handle all those questions.
Okay.
And even though there are questions that I may have never asked before, I have never found a question that nobody in the history of the church has asked.
Okay.
There are an abundance of resources. There's an abundance of depth. There's more to Christianity than most people think there is.
Okay.
And so as we ask these questions, I think we can do that in the confidence, knowing that there are answers, even if it's going to take us a while to find them.